Chico's gonna give you what? Rev is gonna give you what? Ben is gonna give you what? All three are gonna give you the Big D. Chico's gonna give you what? Rev is gonna give you what? Ben is gonna give you what? All three are gonna give you the Big D. Chico, Rev, and Ben, yep, they're at it again. Breaking down the team, putting stats up in your head. Nothing less than said, they're leaving it all on the field. Just like the favorite team, raising 2 cups and will chill. The knowledge is real for a trio so true to representing the great red, white, and blue. And you love them too, that you can't deny. So just one time, let me hear Dallas till I die. Chico's gonna give you what? Rev is gonna give you what? Ben is gonna give you what? All three are gonna give you the Big D. Chico's gonna give you what? Rev is gonna give you what? Ben is gonna give you what? All three are gonna give you the Big D. Soccer podcast? Huh.
Welcome to the show tonight. Welcome to Big D After Dark. I'm one of your hosts here, Nathan Hill. Excited to have you as we break down the latest FC Dallas news and action, especially after a disappointing return to play this past weekend as FC Dallas welcomed Minnesota and battled to a 1-1 draw at home. Another home draw. What's up with this team? We'll get to it tonight and take your questions live. Welcome to Big D After Dark. Welcome. There we are. My mic is a little hot there, so let me know if you're listening in, and you need me to lower my mic a bit here. Welcome to Big D After Dark. I'm Nathan, and there with me is my good friend Jose Carmona at El Chico Carmona on Twitter. You can follow him. We're expecting Ben to join at any moment, but he may have gotten pulled away by life and circumstances, so it happens. By the way, you can follow me at Nathan J. Hill, and you can read and follow some great FC Dallas soccer coverage by fans just like you who love to write about this team at bigdsoccer.com. And as I opened up the show, we've had an nice couple of weeks of international break. Lots of soccer going on with the Euros and everything. A lot of great stuff going on. And, of course, the USA won the Nations League, which was a nice thing to celebrate, and a lot of some FC Dallas action, FC Dallas player action in the midst of that. But we're here first to talk about FC Dallas, and so they welcome Minnesota United. Oh, we started the international break with a difficult match that was very, very disappointing against Colorado. And now we come back at home, and you're thinking this team's going to get healthy. They're going to figure out the pieces, and really it just didn't go as planned. Sure, they battled back from giving up a goal 1-0 after a really lackluster first half, but couldn't get the go-ahead goal, and simply put, a home draw. I know it's a long season, but a home draw is not good enough for this team to be in contention. So, listen, everybody, if you're watching live, thank you for joining us. Please post your comments, your questions. We'll get to them on air as we. And speak of Ben. Suddenly, he's with us. Ben, is that you? Are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. All right, good. I saw your Skype logo pop up. And you can follow Ben at Bird Turgler on Twitter. Just getting us into the thing to begin to talk about this FC Dallas game, home draw against Minnesota. let's start out with the positives. Let's not go right to the negatives here, but let's talk about positives. Jose, I'll start with you. What's a positive or two you can take from this weekend's match?
Pepe started. Pepe scored. There's a positive there. Paxton started. I'll leave it at that. That's also a positive. And I think that's about as much positive as I give you. More, played out of his mind. So there you go. There's my 3 positives. Nice round shot for you.
Mm-hmm. All right, Ben, some positives from the home draw.
Of course, you got to give that to me second after Jose has taken all of the good ones. Hey, Nkosi Tafari got his first MLS start. So congratulations, young man. Maybe the first of many, depending on how long Matt Hedges is out. So yeah, he's got that under his belt at least. Let's see, what else was there? Hey, I mean, you got a lot of corners again this game. You got 6. Of course, there's like a big negative to go with that too.
Positive, stay positive, Ben.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have much. Hey, I mean, like, they didn't lose, so that's good. It's
there
good.
You go.
That's good. We got to dig deep. Yeah, I mean,
I got a thing.
Okay, sure.
Thing. The other positive that Ben failed to mention was Hara didn't start, which is the reason Ben's with us.
All right. I
thought that was implied, but you know what? Yeah, that is a huge positive.
I was leaving that for you. I was leaving that there. I left that hanging for you.
I mean, you got to temper it with the fact that he still played, and to me, like, the funniest thing about the game was that Pepe scored and Hara was inches away from blocking the shot. So that's probably the biggest positive of the game is that Hara didn't play much, and the one chance he had to really fuck it up, he narrowly averted it. So that's great.
So yeah, I'll go to round this out because I concur with all you all. I mean, I thought Ryan Hollingshead, and I guess it was his first time with the captain's armband, maybe this season or whatever. But I saw a tweet from FC Dallas about that, and he continues.
Since he's been with the team.
Yeah. Okay. Well, he continues to be a trooper, a battler. He hasn't been perfect this season, but he's also been at times a source of offensive ability and a source of energy for this team. So it's good to see him. Really great pass and Jesus Ferreira, another positive. He's been injured and he really jolted this team in the second half. He was part of the playmaking that led to the tying goal, and you could just see how much better the team looked in the offensive third when he was in the mix. And so that's exciting if he can get back to fitness soon. With 2 more games this week, I imagine he's going to start one of those at least. Maybe not Wednesday, but maybe this weekend. So yeah, there are some positives. We saw some new faces. Yeah, and you like the team, their fight back in the second half. I mean, you can appreciate that, and it looked like a good, decent atmosphere in the crowd in the stadium. That was nice to see. Yeah. Okay, that's good. So now let's shift to the things we didn't like. All right. Of course.
Ben go.
Yeah. Of course we.
No. You go right ahead. I mean, like.
All right.
You fill it in, and I got plenty to fill it in the back end with.
I'll start with one, and it's about the starting lineup and the formation. And I just want to say that I felt like this team was set up for failure right off the bat. I mean, let's face it. Yes, I was happy with some of the players that were playing, but you introduce your newest big signing that's going to start right at DM in Facundo, and then you start a first-time center back making his debut behind him. That did him no favors whatsoever. I'm sorry, and it just, you're debuting two guys basically in your defense, and that was bound to lead to disaster. Also, then you bring in Paxton. We all wanted to see Paxton start, and you start him on the right side, where he looked completely uncomfortable. And really, it's not a side. I know he can play there, but it's not his optimal side. He can play better on the left side. He can play even better in the center. But none of us said, "Oh yeah, he's going to start Paxton on the right side," and he struggled while he was on that side. I'm sorry, I mean, it had nothing to do with his health or anything. It's like, I just feel like, the whole conversation of Lucci overthinking things, and while I did like to see Tafari get his first start and whatnot, to me, it just seemed like you set the team up for failure from the get-go. And I was not all stunned when they conceded a goal. I didn't like the fact that it came at the expense of Facundo, who honestly I thought had a good game other than that play. And that's all everyone's going to remember. Is going to say, oh, yeah, that guy that gave up the play that cost us the game. So,
well, you know what? And I think once his teammates get more familiar with him, they'll see that, he's going to take initiative like that, and
no, I understand. I'm just thinking,
Acosta will drop back on a play like that instead of like looking at it and kind of like doing a double take.
Would that have hurt FC Dallas? That turnover have hurt FC Dallas as much if Hedges was back there instead of Tafari? I'm just saying they didn't do him any favors. You got a guy who looked like he was comfortable taking chances on defense, but when your back line is shaky, chances is the one thing you shouldn't be taking. So I'm just saying, I think the formation set FC Dallas up for failure and where everybody was at. And yes, the team recovered enough to salvage a point, but let's face it, let's be brutally honest here. Minnesota is one of the worst teams in the West right now, along with FC Dallas. This should have been 3 points. You see a struggling team like yourself come, and that's got to be 3 points. You got to find a way to get those three. And I'm sorry, but they found a way to botch it up.
Yeah. No.
Oh, yours, man.
I mean, so, we talk about Hara not starting, which I think is a great first step to, shipping him off to Uzbekistan. Baby steps. But, I mean, like the other thing, FC Dallas has taken 50 corner kicks this year, and they've only scored off of one. It was a rebound off of, an actual save that Portland's keeper made. And that was off a corner not taken by Brian Acosta. I mean, it's these constant themes of things that, like, I think are obvious to note and to fix, that just keep coming up, which is just mind-blowingly frustrating to me. And Leon Goretzka had a funny quote today about the Euros and how things have improved in the last couple of months, and he was happy that 81 million Germans were now thinking that they were best suited to be the coach of the German national team instead of being all 81 million people being virologists, which was to me hilarious. But yeah, no, I mean, like, why are you having Acosta take corner kicks still? I mean, like, nothing comes from it. He's not that good at it. and it puts you, one of your best defenders, in a position where he cannot defend on a counterattack. Which is like one of his strongest attributes. So you just eliminate that from the play for nothing.
Yeah.
Please stop.
I feel like the band should start a hashtag that, hashtag why is it Costa taking corners? Something like that. Just
see if it. Like, my logic about Quinone is, I try to think about it from Lucci's perspective. You make this signing, and obviously, then it's clear if he starts right away, that means that Lucci is thinking this guy's really good. He's really what this team needs to figure some things out. So that we currently don't have a player, Cerrillo or Tessman, who can do what Quinone can do to help this team win. But then we saw him out there, and like, it wasn't the worst beginning of any FC. He had some plays. He had some bite to him. You could see the potential there for what he can bring this team. But still, and that's why maybe it's harsh to play. He had the turnover, but really, Acosta should have been there to help out. The defense really played that. It was not great the way they handled it, but Mar blocked the shot. They should have dealt with the rebound. Tafari didn't deal with it. It's just that it's tough to blame it all on Quinone when Mar did his job, and but it's frustrating, I think, too, because my question is just for Lucci is how can you simplify it for your players? And I've heard Lucci. I wanted to pull up the post-game press conference. I couldn't download it, so we're not going to bother with that. But in so many of the media calls when we've talked to, and I've been able to talk to Lucci and ask him questions, he just stresses the importance of the team working harder, of being more focused, more. And that's fine, because there's truth is that they need to do that. But there's a point where you can't just keep asking for more without also giving something more as a coach. And so, like, at times it didn't seem like Quinone and Acosta's roles were as simple as they could be to help this team. The way Minnesota carved apart this team in the first half, and then at moments in the second half, and they bypassed Quinone and Acosta with just one pass and created these situations where you could argue that Minnesota deserved 3 points, that they could have easily earned another goal. And, you could make the argument, too, that FC Dallas should have maybe had another goal as well in the second half. But I just, coming back to these questions about how Lucci's setting up and what Lucci wants from these guys, and the first half is the clearest example of that for me, of like, are you putting your guys in a position to succeed? You start Pepe, but Pepe was almost non-existent. No, in the first half. And some of that was on Obrian and on Pomical having poor games. And
not being played in their ideal spots either.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just left with lots of questions. And Tafari, I think, it was just a difficult thing. He was the next man up with Bresson being out and now getting his green card. He'll probably be back, and maybe even by Wednesday, and will be helped there. And but yeah, like, that was my question going back to the Quinone thing. Like, Cerrillo just came off a killer game with North Texas, and so you sign a guy and you just immediately plunge him in there. But so is Cerrillo not doing what the coach wants? Is he just not good enough? Does he not really? And I wonder, even with the player relationships, the coach relationship, I wonder about Ricarte coming off at half. That must be frustrating for him. There's just a lot of questions that I think that are going to be asked of Lucci if we were a fly on the wall in that locker room. I'll stop there. It's just a hodgepodge of thoughts I have. And I don't know what to make of it yet. I don't know if we're seeing Lucci unable to just being unlucky, or if he's really unable to adapt.
Yeah, I just want to say that look, you can see bright spots here and there. I mean, Tafari actually played, had a very solid match for a guy debuting. I thought he did a solid job, which is what you would want. You're just like, I hope he's not a weakness. I hope he does a solid job, and he did a solid job. So, I think you got about as good a game as you get from him, from a guy who, let's face it, until the week before when he played for North Texas, we hadn't seen a lick out of him. So I think that's positive. I mean, Jesus, when he came on, added a spark. You saw little positives here and there, but they were outweighed by the negatives. So you see the potential there for this team, where this team can be, but they need to sustain that positivity longer. It's like it comes in spurts. It comes in spurts. They can't sustain it for an entire match. That's something we haven't seen, and seeing glimpses of it. I think that's what's causing the fans to basically get upset more, because they see the potential there. They see the players do what we think they can do, but they don't sustain it. It's got to be padding for Lucy, trying to figure out how to get it all. The jigsaw puzzle all worked out. And right now, he's not getting it right.
And injuries have impacted it in some of these. They now call-ups, But Ben, you shared a tweet from Cocky Bovine on Twitter in our Slack channel. He wrote, I think it was you, Ben, worst FCD season ever. Watch Game 8 in 2003. FC Dallas lost in South Lake to San Jose 2-1. And we're 1, 3, and 4 with 6 points after, I guess, Game 8. And then 2021, drew at home to Minnesota 1-1. 1, 4, and 3 with just 7 points. So in other words, somehow we could be looking at one of the worst FC Dallas seasons if this kind of run holds up.
Oh yeah, the follow-up, there was a threaded tweet. There's the next game was a road game at Chicago, and it was a blowout. Mm-hmm. So that kind of, hopefully doesn't mirror what's about to happen in Los Angeles. It could. Mm-hmm. I don't think anybody questions right now that it could. It's tough times.
Not what we thought we'd be talking about, right? We're a little somber today.
Yeah, it's starting to run out of time to figure it out. It's not like we haven't seen this, in like a child's lifetime. 2017, there was that brutal stretch in the summer after the Gold Cup, after Bruce Arena ruined Matt Hedges and Cal Acosta, and then proceeded to get the U.S. eliminated from the World Cup in 2018. A lot of bad stuff happened, and then we shouldn't dwell on that too much. Mm-hmm. But big game this week. 2 big games.
2 big games.
You're playing for your season this week, and integrating new players, and you got longtime stalwarts hurt. And, it's white knuckle season.
Mm-hmm. Michael Crossman, thanks for joining us and watching. He writes that Kenan looked a step slow and not in sync with the team. And, he just was signed. I don't know if he was training much with the team before that. And so it kind of makes sense that he was adjusting, and he needs to adjust to the speed and physicality of MLS, which always takes time. But, yeah, it was a mixed bag of a beginning. Certainly some positives, but, we'll see. I don't know if that means that Cerrillo starts on Wednesday or what, and that's why they wanted to get him out there just to keep some fresh legs, but we'll see. we'll see.
Yeah, I think he also appeared to lose some steam as the game progressed too. So I think a little bit of that has to do also with him not being in sync with the team, but also, having to get used to the heat and we don't know his game shape. After having a long season in Argentina, what kind of shape he's in. So I think you have to think that all that had to figure in there.
Mm-hmm. Well, this week, FC Dallas goes to play at LAFC, and LAFC have, unfortunately, for their fans and the fan base, and for MLS as large, kind of not also been as good and hot and sharp as they thought they were going to be. They've been vulnerable, and so there's a potential for points there, even at Los Angeles. Though it's going to be a hard ask. And then the other big one that's coming up this weekend is the New England Revolution, who are the hottest team, the most dominant team looking right now in Major League Soccer.
Team?
Yeah. And that's what Arena does. He gets a lot out of his team, and he...
LAFC, there's only one way to sum up what's going on with LAFC, and we've all gone through it. It's the CONCACAF curse. You have teams that they go to CONCACAF, and when they come back, they're just not the same, and that's LAFC this year. It happened to FCD when we went to CONCACAF. It just... Some teams go to CONCACAF and they just don't come back the same. In the early season attrition and early injuries, it's a lot to overcome considering how thin these rosters, MLS rosters are due to the salary cap. So honestly, like you said, a vulnerable team, but a vulnerable team that can torch you. If you're experimenting a little too much like Dallas has been lately.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, O'Brien is one of the guys we can talk about. Like, he started out the season so strong, and now, has looked at times near the end of the game, he's just gassed. He's almost like getting himself in offside positions is kind of a message to the coach, like, I'm ready to come off. This team has so much work to do, and I don't know if we're seeing a little glimpses of some internal lack of bonding or what's going on. But
something about O'Brien. I just want to, since you brought up O'Brien, let me say that the fan base is being completely unfair with the guy. They keep comparing him to Barrios and how Barrios is doing in Colorado. He's doing better than O'Brien. But let's take it back, and if you compare them, their first game by game, that Barrios first came to Dallas, it's not even close. O'Brien is blowing what Barrios did when he first arrived out of the water. People forget that Barrios didn't start clicking until after the Open Cup run. Before that, he was just some small fast guy that they brought in. So, I think the problem is you got O'Brien is going through the headaches that every new player goes. And it's too bad that he's got to do it while he's starting. So, I mean, he looks to me like a right now, like a Barrios clone, really. And therefore, we're getting the same frustrations that we had when Barrios was here. Barrios wasn't necessarily great last season, and it just seems like a continuation of that. The difference is that give O'Brien at least a half season to get his, feet under him. Sure. And then once August rolls around, into I think this team, I've seen enough little positives. There's where I see this team has the potential where they could do that, catch some lightning and make a sudden late run. But that's dependent on Lucci not losing the locker room, not losing the team. They can find a way to keep their heads up you get this feeling that once this team gets all healthy and Lucci has all the pieces, they have the kind of talent that could actually catch a lot of people. But if he loses the locker room, like you said, maybe there's signs that there's, seams torn apart, the seams in the locker, then that's something you cannot overcome.
I mean, he's got 2 goals and assists. And 1 assist, I should say. I mean, it's not out of the realm of what you might have expected from him. And it's not his fault that he has had to play with Franco Jara all this time. I mean, I'm totally serious. I think if you look through the first 8 games of the season, there is a pretty noticeable difference about what an absolute drain Franco Jara is on the team. And, it's great that he didn't start the last time, but he played 45 minutes, which was too many. You give him 10 or 15 minutes at this point. Anything above that is a mistake and inexcusable, to be quite honest.
Because he gives you a nice 10 or 15 minutes of energy, and he did that I acknowledge, some hold-up play, some energy, but then he just fades. He just fades, and he's never going to beat you on a counterattack, and even though they try, it's just frustrating. Look, so I'll go on the record here. I have been very patient with Franco Jara because I know he's a quality player. He has a track record, and I thought, it's just the team needs to figure it out. He needs to get out of his rut, but I'm ready to move on from him. I thought, I'm just so ready. It's just, I just don't. Unless there's a major formation kind of switch, I just don't see. I just don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. As that super sub, as the spot starter, sure, but you're paying him too much for that. You've got to find a way to offload him this summer and create an opportunity to bring somebody else in.
If FC Dallas was mercifully granted the privilege of playing with 12 players for the rest of the year, none of those 12 players should be Franco Jara.
And you know what? I'm actually, the whole Franco Jara is getting paid too much to say stuff like that. The Hunts have money, man. They can afford to bring more high-paid players. They just don't want to. They're unwilling to. So, I mean, if the guy isn't doing it, then let's bench him and if it's going to upset the locker, I mean, I think the locker's already there, Lucci needs to basically, like that he started Pepe, and Pepe did actually score in the second half, so I'd say, as long as he keeps scoring, keep starting him, and then
they should have done that after the Portland game, to be quite honest. Even though he didn't score in that game, they scored 4 of that game. They were dominant. Why did you not just keep going with that? I mean, it just
and I'm just saying,
so
I'm
frustrating.
Tired of the whole getting paid too much nonsense. Dallas can, the owners can afford higher paid players than Jara if they wanted to. That's just not going to happen. So if they're not producing, they got to cut them. Let's face it, you're wasting money. Like I said, I've been patient with Jara, and hopefully he'll see that the fans are upset with him, and he'll, find something to turn it around. But until he does, the hard truth is the team's got to move on from him.
I think there's a very imperfect understanding in how Jara is compensated compared to, relative to the salary cap. Yeah, the Hunts take on that extra cost for a designated player that, is outside of the pool of money that they use to play MLS players through the single entity. So they take on that cost. But how much of that has been offset by transfer fees in the last few years? Are they really paying out of pocket for Franco Jara? And it doesn't really matter at this point because he's washed. It doesn't matter if they, use transfer money to buy him out or not. It's not that ideal, but it's sunk cost at this point, and it's just an awful, awful drag on the team. go sign a USL striker. That's just as well. That's better because he won't be, Lucci won't be compelled to start him.
But can I just say that Hira is, to me, on the same boat as Pablo. These are players that they fell in love for what Oscar was doing, for the formation that Oscar was running. Yeah, okay, I could see where Oscar Pereira was still here and had the 4-2-3-1 with Hara up top. I can see how that was going to work. And with Aaron Guiz, same thing, a number 10 to replace Diaz. But these are players that were basically the club fell in love when Tornado was still here. So now, let's say they go to Lucci and say, okay, Lucci, we're going to spend $10 million on a player. Who do you want? And Lucci tells him, says, okay, you're going to get him next season. But then they fire Lucci and they bring in another guy who runs a completely different system. Then you're going to see it again. This is basically what happens with these players that Lucci inherited. And okay, we got the big striker. Yes, but you brought it in for the previous guy. You didn't bring him in for Lucci. Lucci didn't say, oh, Hara's everything I want in my number 9. It's like, it's
the curse of the Cobra.
I hope Lucci has
the curse of the Cobra.
Says that Lucci doesn't have is not in the hot chair, and I hope that's true because he needs to basically have all 11 guys that he wants on the field, not guys that you feel are being forced on him.
Well, all right. Well, we're already about 36 minutes into the show, 37. So let's begin to shift toward closing up things. So what do y'all hope to see out of this week? I mean, let's go to the extremes. Let's say FC Dallas comes away with 2 losses this week. What's your outlook on the season at that point?
Well, so even with 2 losses at this point, the season isn't dead. It's a long season, and you're still playing for the playoffs. But my gosh, if you lose both this week, like how grim is that going to be? First off, and you know what? I mean, like this is like it's not two easy games that you would expect to get a bunch of points out of. So. I think this week is what you would call a high leverage position to determine how the team is going to perform as the second half of the season approaches. You're starting to get not that close to there. I mean, like it's amazing. Like we're only 8 games in. I guess if you think about it. It makes some sense since the season started earlier or later than normal. I don't know. I mean, like it's not the end of the world, but I mean you want to see something that is starkly different than 2003.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cocky Bovine.
So are both games on the road?
No, New England's at home. I mean, so
okay.
you should get 3 points, but New England's been good on the road.
So my thing is if it's 2 losses, it just continues the fans being upset, but it's not the end of the world. It's like we're going to be about a third of the way through the season. There's still plenty of time to turn it around. So it's not the end of the world, but I would say if they lose these next 2 games, now you're talking about a losing run. And therefore, I would say if they don't come out of this with at least a point at home, they really do need to make some hard changes or make some hard decisions, because I think that's the hard truth is while it's not the end of the world, it's a sign that whatever you're doing isn't working.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's may not be completely a panic meltdown. It may not be time to change. have coaching changes or to do some kind of thing. But it would be a moment for a real reckoning kind of conversation with the team about the season and about what's coming. But yeah, I obviously 6 points would dramatically shift the fortunes of the team against two really good squads.
I would say 4 points would really go a long ways towards, easing the panic that the fan base is in right now. Getting a point at LAFC, getting 3 at home, I think we would be excited with that, considering how they've done so far this season. So that's my best case scenario is 4 points. But at this point, who knows?
Mm-hmm. Well, all right. Well, let's shift over to North Texas talk. Some interesting news. North Texas had a tough game this past weekend. They look like a team that is full of raw talent, capable of just taking you to the woodshed or whatever. But they're also a team that looks very raw and are capable of just not getting it done sometimes. But the big news was David Rodriguez, the first sale of North Texas Soccer Club to a Liga MX team. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and the second best academy in MLS just keeps selling players left and right. I think Philadelphia is hanging their hat on. They've sold 2 players, and now it's just like, oh yeah, okay, we just sold another guy. We're gonna sell another guy, and it's ridiculous. But anyway, I think we all knew that was coming. Atletico San Luis made they didn't beat about the bushes, and they flat out came out and said, oh yeah, we're gonna get him. That was the president basically saying, he said it like a month or 2 ago. He says, oh yeah, we're restructuring the whole team and he's part of our plans. So I think it's an exciting move for him. It looks like, even though he's a young player, he may be giving, I'm not saying a featured role, but he'll get significant minutes once that team basically goes back on the field. So, and North Texas, by the way, so let's just say that this team, compared to the first 2 seasons, is probably the least, how can I say it, reinforced team. Look at how many FCD players were loaned in the first season. And even though last season they didn't loan a lot of players to the team, they did loan players to them at home. And this weekend, I was stunned that there not a single FCD player was sent to play for North Texas. So this team, what you're seeing a 500 team at best, because, like you said, it's a raw team. But also, it looks to me like FC Dallas is changing their gears in a way, their approach is saying, hey, we got these raw players, and how are they going to get any better if they're not playing a lot? Mm-hmm. So we need to just let them sink or swim. And some of these guys, unlike the first 2 seasons, some of these guys are signed to 3-year deals, which means that the team intends to keep them around for a long time. So, it's basically they changed the way they're handling the team this year, and it looks definitely more of a developmental tool, more so for non-FCB players than in the 2 previous incarnations. And so
Interesting.
I think I like, if you're a person who likes seeing players develop, then this is a good thing, because I can tell you right now that I saw some good developments player-wise, even though the team didn't win. But you saw Kasu overtake Waldeck at left back. You saw, I think Maldonado is pretty much your starting right back going forward. He seems to have nailed down that. I'm not saying they nailed down, but they've guaranteed themselves at least spot starting duties in those spots, which I would never have envisioned Waldeck not playing left back before. And then you've got that Kaiser Gomez has solidified himself as a starting left center back. And then you have the addition, you had the signing of, what's his name, Ben? That kid out of Fort Lauderdale?
Well, I mean, he's actually from Solar. He's the
Yeah.
local boy, South Lake kid, Blaine Ferry.
Yeah.
Not your FM guy, whoever that was.
So Blaine Ferry, his signature means that Allison, who's been bouncing between center back and defensive midfielder, is now your other starting center back. So your back line is set. You've got Casu, Gomez, Allison, and Maldonado, and that's a good sign. Now we just got to find out who the defensive mid is, because that's been a weakness with Allison leaving that. Almaguer has been kind of shaky there. I mean, he's a solid midfielder, but he's not a 6, you know? And that's where Blaine Ferry comes in. Is he's basically going to be your new number 6 in front of that defense.
Is he?
So
I mean, he's been more of a, one of the more advanced midfielders typically. So I don't know that he was brought in as a defensive midfield solution.
He's going to be given that chance to be, because he's no more a 6 than Almaguer is a 6.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what I'm saying is I think he'll be given a shot at that spot, and that's why he was brought in. That's a weakness in the team, and maybe he'll have to be on a weekly rotation with Almaguer at that spot. But yeah, now they just got to sort out their attack. Once they've sorted out their defense, I mean, positive back-to-back clean sheets. You know, they can build on that. They needed to fix the defense. The defense looks to have been patched up, fixed up. Now they can fix the attack and take it from there. By the way, as poorly as the team has played, I think on points per average they're up there. They're number 3 or number 4. So a 3-goal explosion and they're number 1, just like that. So the attack has been shaky, but it's still exciting. It's still most of this year.
They're fun to watch. It's a fun team to watch. Raw team, young team. It's just kind of exciting to see, because it gives FC Dallas that sort of pool of players just to develop some guys and just to take flyers on some of these young guys who are raw and maybe can develop. Maybe just need some time, and we'll have an entryway up with Dallas. Now, so let's close out the show. Let's leave it there tonight. But let's just do predictions. And I'm throwing this on the spot here. We got 2 predictions. So at LAFC and at home against New England. What are your predictions for final results, final scores for those 2 matches this week? Who wants to go first?
So I'm not going to predict scores on the game. I will predict that at least in one of the games, FC Dallas will not start Hara, which is great. And they will score a total of 3 goals this week. And that's all I'll say.
Okay.
They will score at least 3 goals this week.
Okay.
I actually agree with that assessment.
They could lose both games still.
Honestly, I think they'll score about 3 goals. I think that sounds about right. But I think they will only allow 2 goals this week. That's me. That's me saying that I think Brazan coming back is going to help. Facundo having another week under his belt is going to help. I think the defense is actually solid. I do think our defense is solid. I think they escape LAFC with a point and they get 3 against me. That's my optimistic view.
Good. All right. Yeah, and I'm, based on.
God, I hope they pound New England and shut up that fat, loudmouth gym coach up there. You know how much I hate Bruce Arena? You know how bad he sucks?
I think this team needs to go in this week knowing that there's no more weeks just to get it right, to work through the issues, and to look at the positives and the stats. It's time to grit out some results, and so I'd love to see 4 points, and it's I'm hoping that LAFC, the team, battles and even if they fall a little short and settle for a point, that they come out to finish the job on against New England. So, yeah, that's my hope. But there's also a scenario here where I just see 1 point as FC Dallas just figures out some kind of draw, and then maybe at home, and we're still left here next week talking about this team unable to get the job done. So
yeah, they're getting three. They're getting 3 goals this week. That could result in anywhere from 0 to 6 points.
Okay. All right. Well, let's leave it there. Thanks, everybody, for joining us, for your comments, your questions. And we have two games, plenty of soccer this week. Let's enjoy as best we can. Thanks, Jose.
Next podcast.
Yeah. Thanks, Jose. Thanks, Ben. Good night.
Good night.